A very good morning and welcome to Constitutional Dialogue Series on Asake Online. I'm your moderator today and my name is Sizwakele Ndlovu. With me on the show, I have 4 panelists and they're joining me via Zoom. I have Sunare, Melissa Nomakhosi Ndlovu, Thobekile Sithole, and Dumsani Ncube. I'll ask each of them to just give themselves a brief introduction. So let's cross over to the Zoom. So Mosu, please give us a brief intro and tell us what organization you're representing.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me to this panel discussion. My name is Mosupa Zilanare. I'm the legal officer at Women's Institute for Leadership Development World. Thank you.
Thank you, Mosu. And Melissa, please give us your introduction.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Melissa Nomakhosi Ndlovu, and I am the Programs Manager for M20 Women's Forum.
Thank you, Melissa. And over to you, Thobekile.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Thobekile Sithole. I'm a legal officer from Justice for Children in Bulawayo.
Thanks, Thobekile. Thanks for joining us. And lastly, we have Mr. Dumsani Ncube. Over to you.
Good morning, colleagues. I'm Dumsani Ncube. I'm a program officer at Habakkuk Trust. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So today we are discussing what CSOs are doing in response to ongoing constitutional and legal reforms. So various CSOs have come up with different initiatives, and this is what we'd like to find out today. As you are aware, we've had a lot of bills being proposed, SIs being given to the public, and we just want to find out what is everybody doing in response to this to create awareness and even counter these initiatives. So we'll start off with Mosu. Mosu, over to you. What are you doing to respond to these ongoing constitutional and legal reforms?
Thank you, Swa. So as Women's Institute for Leadership Development, we have been actively involved in advocacy work around legal and constitutional reforms. Mainly what we've been doing is the submission of our position papers to Parliament. Once a bill has been gazetted, it is now open to the public to make their comments. So we actually take advantage of that opening, and then we compile our views and we compile our analysis of that particular law and the pros and cons that we pick from it and what we think can be improved. Then from that compilation, from that analysis, we then submit it to Parliament. They actually have an email address that is on their website. So we use that email address and we make our submission. What we have also been doing as one of our strategies is engagement with members of Parliament. Usually we do engage our local members of Parliament that we work with, and we have a discussion around a particular law that has been gazetted, and we talk about the implications, and also we bring in women who also make their submissions as what their views are on that particular reform. So from those engagements with our local members of Parliament, we will be aiming to say that when now they go back to Parliament, when the particular law is being debated, at least they will carry the views of the people from the ground, from the views of the women that we work with, and then they go and present them when the bill is being debated. We also have engagements with portfolio committees for the particular laws that would be passed. For example, with the Constitution Amendment Bill number 2, we actually had an engagement with the Portfolio Committee on Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. We invited the chairperson, Honorable Sheikh Mataranyika, and we had an engagement with him. This we did after the public hearings when that particular Portfolio Committee made a report from the public hearings where they submitted that some of the views that they'd gathered from the public hearings, they were not going to take them because they stated various reasons. Some, they said that they felt like members of the public had been coached on what to say, and it wasn't really a true reflection of what the people wanted. So we actually had an engagement with a chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Justice, and we were able to actually articulate our views and our grievances, that we believe that when public hearings are being held, what the people say really matters. So we felt like it was really not a good move on the part of the committee to say that after they've heard what people say, then they take it lightly and dismiss it. To us, it felt like they carry out these public hearings as window dressing processes just to tick boxes because the constitution requires it. So from that engagement, we were able to and also recommendations. We also recently we had an engagement meeting with the Speaker of Parliament, Advocate Jacob Mdenda, with regards to devolution legal framework. Last year in August, government actually passed a devolution and decentralization policy, which speaks into issues of regulations around devolution. But now when you read the constitution, it speaks that a legal framework has to be put in place to regulate devolution. So we felt like that before we even talk about having a policy on devolution, we really need laws that are going to regulate devolution. So from our policy engagement that we had with the Speaker of Parliament, we made our submissions that we feel like, I mean, it's been 7 years, 8 years now since we had this constitution that we have now, and it actually says that Parliament has to come up with legal reforms around devolution. So we felt like after all these years, it's now time that actually Parliament takes the step and say, we now have a devolution law in place, because we see that currently devolution funds are being disbursed to various local authorities, but at the same time, we still don't have a legal framework. So from that engagement with the Speaker of Parliament, we actually put across what our recommendations on what we think would work, what we would like to see in a devolution legal framework. What the other strategy that we've been using is taking part in public hearings. So what we do whenever there's a new law being proposed or which has been gazetted, we actually have public meetings with our constituents, that is women and young women from our areas of operation. So from these public meetings, we actually engage with women and explain that particular law and its implications. So from those public meetings, we then encourage women to take part in the public hearings. So for each and every bill and law that has been passed, we make sure that we have women that go there and attend and also say out their views for that particular law. Also, when you read the Constitution, Section 141B and Section 328(4), it really mandates Parliament of Zimbabwe that once a law has been proposed, before it goes for debate in Parliament, it has to be taken to the people. The members of Parliament have to go out and gather the views of the people. So we really take advantage of that constitutional provision, and we ensure that the women that we work with, they actually all the time, they take part in those public hearings. Another strategy that we have been using, we have also been having CSOs, consensus building engagements in organizations here in Bulawayo, including Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association, Bulawayo Vendors and Traders Association. We have partnered with the site, we have partnered with PRIS. Mainly our partnership has been around Constitution Amendment Bill number 2. So from those engagements with these CSOs, we're able to come up with a collective voice to say that, okay, we see that you are saying that is saying the Parliament of Zimbabwe is going to amend the Constitution, but as CSOs, this is our view. This is our input. So from those those consensus building meetings, we were able to come up with one voice, which we were able to also submit during public hearings. So for now, I think those are the strategies that we've been using. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mosu. You're doing a lot of good work, public hearings, lobbying, and talking to Parliament. I'm going to ask a side question, Auntie. It was not part of our discussion. With the 60 women who are in Parliament right now, you know, the gender representation and all that, how effective, in your opinion, has that been? There are these ladies who've gone there and are sitting there and you're doing a lot of lobbying as well. Are you getting much engagement from them? Are they listening? Are they taking up issues? Or njengama 60 seats abantu abahleziyo nje bethola ama allowance?
Okay, the biggest challenge that we have as a country right now, I think, is the issue of the whipping system, whereby when individuals get to Parliament, when it's time to vote, it's time to raise issues, they do so along party lines. Like, it seems like someone has an instruction that, okay, for this issue, this is the position that you are supposed to take. I mean, we have seen recalls that have been happening, and the Constitution, it allows political parties to recall people who are no longer representing the party's position. So I think because of this system, it becomes a bit difficult for those women who are in Parliament, that sometimes when they have a particular position which is different from their political party, it becomes really difficult for them to advance that particular position. But what I can say is that for the women that we work with as an organization who are in Parliament, they are open for engagement. Whenever we call them for our meetings, they really do attend and they really listen to the views of the women who in those particular meetings. So I can say that in terms of being open to engagements, they really are open to engagements, but the biggest challenge, I think, is the issue of the whipping system in Parliament. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mosu, for that insightful presentation. Okay. I think my network is okay now. It's stabilized, Thobekile. So if you don't mind, just starting all over again. Thank you.
That's fine. I have partnered with 6 other organizations, being We Lead Trust, Wild, which is the Women's Institute for Leadership Development, Human Rights NGO Forum, and Center for Applied Legal Research, and Zim Rights. 6 organizations, we have formed what we call the Constitutional Law Center, which is its mandate or its objectives are to constitution and legislative and policy framework, and to provide intellectual leadership in constitutional affairs, and to develop solid and sound institutions that is accountable and transparent in its operations. So basically, it's just raising awareness on constitutional issues. We submit papers, position papers in regards to the different constitutional amendments, and we're also involved in strategic litigation that involves the Constitution. And we are just in advocacy with to ensure that the constitutional alignment of our legislation. So that's what we are doing as Justice for Children with 6 other organizations. And then we do commentaries on the different amendments or constitutional amendments that are being made, so that we simplify it or put it in layman terms, so that we can distribute to the general public. So that's that. The aim is to just to has an idea of exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about the constitutional provisions. Yeah, that's about it.
So Thobekile, in terms of once you distribute material that is friendly to the layperson, have you found that people actually get an appreciation for the Constitution, or there's still this apathy about politics? Isn't there a politics, or was the barrier being able to understand this legal jargon?
So we try to simplify it to an extent where people feel that they can identify with some of the issues. So we try and local can feel like this actually applies to them. So abanengi, obviously, okay, not abanengi, but in a majority of the people, there's a lack of apathy. There's apathy towards constitutional issues because they're thinking this is just legal jargon and it doesn't apply to them. But once they realize that, oh, okay, this may actually affect my day-to-day life, they take an interest. That's going to take time. Not everyone is interested in those things, but once it hits close to home, you see that people become more interested. So some things, some people, they just seem abstract, and it's difficult to get their interest. But I think slowly we're getting more people to get into it, and yeah, hopefully it will gain traction as time goes by.
Okay, so last question, just an opinion question. Do you think we should lobby for the Constitution to be taught at schools from like primary level in levels that are understandable to children? Should we be lobbying for things like that to say, from a very early age?
Definitely, I think that's a very valid addition to our education system, because everything that the Constitution touches on our day-to-day lives, and because the attitude people have right now is because they don't understand what the Constitution is about. But if you realize that the Constitution is our supreme law, and it regulates our everything, our rights, especially the issue of rights. We have the Bill of Rights, which touches on our right to health, right to food, right to education, and those are our day-to-day basic from the get-go, from a young age. Then it would also increase the advocacy. People will be able to advocate on their own for these rights, to be able to hold the government accountable to what is written in the Constitution. The reason I think also there's a lot of apathy in regards to advocacy is because people don't know what they're entitled to. They don't know what the rights are in their Constitution. They don't know what the responsibilities and the obligations of the government don't know. So once we know, and once in our education system and our children know what we're talking about, and they grow up to be these adults, we'll be able to hold our government accountable for its obligations. So I think it's important that the Constitution should be taught from a young age, and obviously a child-friendly version of the Constitution will be taught in our schools. And we'll have these very woke children who will know what their rights are and who will know what obligations are in terms of our Constitution.
So I'm looking forward to lobbying to Parliament from your organization on that.
Yeah, we will definitely be working on different aspects of constitutional awareness. So yeah, just watch this space. Definitely will be in your faces about the Constitution.
Thank you so much, Thobekile. And we'll move over to Melissa. Melissa? I hope.
Thank you very much, Swa.
Hi. Yes.
Hi. So as Mtonjeni Women's Forum, we've really been focusing on public awareness concerning the Constitution of Zimbabwe and constitutionalism, with both urban and rural women. We've done so that women are constitution, so that in any instances when government is, or the Parliament of Zimbabwe is consulting on particular bills, women are able to comprehensively contribute to the constitution or the hearing process. We've also engaged in advocacy actions, and we have petitioned Parliament of Zimbabwe towards ensuring that in the legal provisions that they are working on, they're then able to put in place best international practices in terms of the legislation itself. Recently, we petitioned Parliament on the inclusion of a comprehensive framework to deal with sexual harassment and in the labor bill. We are aware that the interministerial task force and the executive has recently been actually working on the bill on labor and aligning it to the constitution. So we were looking at influencing, ensuring that there's a particular provision that deals to sexual harassment, and it is aligned with international best practice or law, such as the International Labour Organization Convention 190. And we really have been working towards educating women on different facets of the Constitution, for instance, devolution, so that they have a clearer understanding, they have a knowledge of what it is and how it functions, so that as community people and women within rural context, they are also able to influence when there is legislation that is being crafted or aligned on issues that they want, that they feel should be considered. I think Masu actually just spoke about devolution and how there was a policy that came into place. And we are really pushing on the forte of ensuring that there is a legislative framework that is clear, that is precise, and that citizens can actually relate with or have knowledge with. As Mtonjeni, we've also been participating in different forums that deal with specifically engagement of parliamentary portfolio committees, but also engagement with line ministries, where we have been advocating for or producing shadow legislation or shadow bills, or influencing best practice within the crafting of model legislation. So the different forums such as the ZI have provided platforms for interaction with different ministries, line ministries, on the best practices, international and otherwise, that Zimbabwe can adopt in aligning the constitution, in aligning different legislation to the constitution and the crafting of different legislation. We've seen the platforms calling on experts to interact with the legislation, to profile possible legislation, and really engaging the relevant authorities to say, this is what citizens would like and how we'd want the laws crafted. So on a basic, that's what we've been doing. We've also been engaging with the parliamentary portfolio committees. We had a recent engagement with the one on labor and the one on women affairs to actually try and influence the crafting of the laws, try and influence the crafting of the Labor Act and the different provisions that should be in place, try and influence legislation, the creation of legislation on issues of sexual harassment and gender equality and equity in Zimbabwe. So in a nutshell, that's how we've been influencing constitutional alignment and legal reform in Zimbabwe.
Melissa, hi. Do you have any success stories that you've had as an organization in your lobbying and petitioning to Parliament? Anything you'd like to share?
I think the most recent success story is where we petitioned Parliament on a more comprehensive Labour Act that addresses, comprehensively addresses sexual harassment in the world of work, and actually petitioning Parliament to ratify ILO Convention 190. This actually led to nationwide consultations that were recently done by the combination of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, as well as the one on Women Affairs. It's recently happened from the 31st of May, I think, to the 4th of June, where they were really now consulting to say, what is the state of sexual harassment in Zimbabwe and how can they contribute to provision of the legislation that is comprehensive and addresses sexual harassment. So for me, that has been a success. We are waiting to hear what the outcomes of the consultations were, and if the Parliament of Zimbabwe is now really kind of willing from their findings to ensure that there is legislation addressing sexual harassment and the amendment more so of the Labour Act to comprehensively address sexual harassment in Zimbabwe.
Fantastic. I look forward to getting feedback from you once you get it as well, Melissa.
We look forward to it as well.
Right. Thank you so much. And now we move on to Ndlovu. Mr. Ndlovu, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Zoa. And greetings once again. Yes, thank you. Greetings once again, colleagues. Thank you very much. As Habakkuk Trust, one of our major trusts is local level advocacy, where we deal with local communities. And what we've done to that effect with regards to amendment bills and constitutional reform, we conduct education and awareness on the Constitution of Zimbabwe in line with Section 7 that encourages bodies like CSOs to raise awareness on the Constitution of Zimbabwe. And towards these amendments, we have conducted consensus building meetings in preparation for public hearings in the communities where we have a presence. We have also prepared position papers from these community engagements that have been presented during these public hearings, citing community input. We've seen this as an important step because what happens is that most of the times people are called to public hearings and they don't necessarily understand what the amendment is about and the implications and what it entails and the repercussions that ensue. So we try to bridge that knowledge gap by educating communities on the amendments, the proposals, the provisions, and what would best suit the citizen interests. So, because most of the times when you look at these amendments, the way they are done is to suit political jackets. And if we don't mitigate as CSOs, we run the risk of entrenching a constitution that supports partisan politics. So we try very hard to educate communities to raise awareness of the constitution so that they're able to give input during the public hearing processes. So we come up with position papers during the consensus building meetings, gather community views that are then presented during the public hearings. And we also support communities to attend these hearings, because at times there are issues of distance that people they are called at the central location, and it becomes a bit difficult for people to get to the center. So we try to, in a way, to facilitate the attendance through representation, so that the position papers are also presented during the meeting, and also we then table those presentations via email to the respective portfolio committee. So basically, in terms of consensus building around legal amendments, that's what we are doing. And secondly, the other strategy that we've adopted is we're part of platforms and networks where we engage different government at different levels. Outside, we're a member of ZI, where we have made submissions to the Interministerial Committee, the IMT, on constitutional amendments, where we then, the views that we have gathered from the communities, we have taken these, we've scaled them up to the Interministerial Committee to try and get community views in the process. So model laws have been made through this process. Proposals, shadow bills have been made through this process that Habakkuk Trust and other CSOs have been a part of playing pivotal role, because we then carry, or we amplify the voices of the ordinary citizen through this process, which is our main thrust. So basically, through this process, we are complementing government efforts in terms of outreach, where we then present community input or community voices to the IMT through such platforms. We've also been part of the electoral reform or electoral amendments agenda through Zimbabwe Election Support Network, where we are a key stakeholder in that process, where we have been involved in the compilation of the comprehensive electoral amendment bill, which is a shadow bill basically that is looking at electoral reform and amendments in line with the constitution of Zimbabwe. So we have done that with various partnerships where we have consensus building meetings, and then we craft model laws or shadow bills from that in pursuit of good democracy and governance in Zimbabwe. Maybe the other thing that I may say is that we've done is petitioning Parliament and engagement with parliamentary portfolio committees. We have done that with regards to access to civic documentation. We've engaged Parliament and we've sent a petition which was successful, which led to the relaxation of birth certificate requirements, which was a hindrance in most parts of Matabeleland and Maitlands provinces. So we engage through petitions. We engage the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee and the Petition Parliament as a body on some of the amendments and legal reform in line with the Constitution. I must say that that is what we have done, but I must say that there are other strategies that other CSOs
I think I've lost you, Jimmy. Jimsani? Jimmy? Hi, Jimmy. Sorry, Jimmy. You went quiet when you started speaking about the other strategies that other CSOs are doing. So can you just start from there? Jimmy, hi, Jimsani. Okay, unfortunately, I think I have lost Udumi, but I think he had given us most of his presentation. So in the interest of time, what I'm going to do is just to ask for just a last words from our panelists. You are all doing amazing work, and especially with this lobbying and petitioning. Okay, Udumi is back. So Dumi?
Yes, I'm back. I don't know where I left off or where
we lost. We lost you at the part where you were talking about other strategies that CSOs are undertaking. So if you can take it from there.
All right. I was saying under other CSOs that are mainly on the legal side, that mainly deal with legal reforms, are also engaging in litigation. They are litigating in pursuit of constitutional democracy and good governance. We've seen cases in the courts being brought by CSOs, but I must say this is a result of last measure, because it's a win-lose situation. While the other strategies that I've outlined are really a win-win, where everyone walks out of the table with something, not necessarily in a balanced way, but everyone walks out with something. But we've seen CSOs pushing very hard for legal reform through the courts, where they've approached the courts in pursuit of good governance and democracy. And that's the other strategy that other CSOs are really engaged in, and it's working to a certain extent. Thank you very much. In a nutshell, I think this is what I heard from Upper Good Trust as our strategy.
Timisani Ngilombuzo, I'm
Yes.
hearing a lot about petitioning and lobbying governments. Can an individual hand in a petition or lobby, or do I need to be part of an organization like yours and any of the others that are on the panel today?
Thank you, Zwa, for your question. An individual can lobby. It's actually a right enshrined in the Constitution of Zimbabwe. As an individual, you can lobby. You're allowed to lobby, and you can submit your petition. If it's to Parliament, you submit it to the Clerk of Parliament as an individual, and it goes to then it's sent to the to the relevant portfolio committee, where you will then be called to appear before that committee. So yes, an individual can log in.
Okay, so you click of court or can I do it electronically?
Yes.
Or
you can do it electronically by via email, and you can submit it in person.
Okay. All right, no,
Yes.
details like that are very interesting, because we always feel that as individuals, we have no say in the matter or taking up certain issues. So thank you for that information. Once we get all the relevant details, we will be posting it on our site just to let people know. So in the interest of time, I'm going to ask our panel to just give us their last words. And we'll start with Mosu where we started. Mosu, over to you, your last words for our viewers.
Thank you, Swa. My last words that I can say is that in this political environment that we have been operating in as civil society organizations, where, as I highlighted in my presentation earlier, that we see engagements by Parliament being done as window dressing exercises. It's more like ticking boxes. So this has had an effect really on our work, because now when you go back to the people that we work with, for us, the women that we work with, after like they've submitted their position, maybe concerning a particular law, but then their views, they become disregarded. This has really led to a situation where there is apathy. Members of the public are saying, so what is the use of us giving our input when it's going to be disregarded? It's really been a challenge, but I would like to encourage members of the public that, okay, it is actually your right to make this input. So as much as maybe we are not getting the results that we would have desired, I had some of the panelists here, they've actually had successes from the work that they've been doing. So even as much as sometimes we might not get the desired results, but I'll encourage members of the public to take up active citizen participation and have their voices heard. Sometimes it's a lose, sometimes it will also be a win. So let's keep on keeping on and putting in our input in the legal reforms that are taking place. Thank you, Swa.
Thank you, Mosu, for those encouraging words. And it's so true that we have this apathy is in getting involved, in even going to register to vote, in voting itself. Really, we are so tired, but it's a battle that has to start somewhere, and it won't be won overnight. So thank you for those encouraging words, Mosu.
Thank you.
And Melissa, your closing words.
I think engagement is actually quite strategic, and I'm actually encouraging different civic organizations, different individuals in Zimbabwe to continue to engage Parliament. I've noticed that recently they are more open to engagement, and it's very crucial to take advantage of such opportunities and influence legal reform, influence the law in Zimbabwe, and influence the constitutional alignment process, because it's beneficial to us, not on what we feel the law should look like. I also encourage civic organizations to continue the hard work in making the citizens of Zimbabwe aware of the constitution, the constitutional reform, and also mobilizing citizens to participate and actively participate in hearings, parliamentary hearings. I like what Mosu said, that while they are disregarding some of the issues that communities are saying, it is very crucial to have shadow reports that we can put forward towards re-engagement and future engagement to say the citizens have spoken, because you cannot stand and say that citizens were coached when citizens are voicing out their concerns. when you go and educate the public, you do not coach them, but you empower them. So the Parliament of Zimbabwe should be held accountable towards disregarding citizens' voices, the rights of the citizens, and gagging them by saying that they've been coached. But let's continue the good work, the hard work. Let's continue the citizen literacy on the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Let's continue to empower citizens to have a voice and speak out on legal reforms.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for those words. Thobekile, over to you.
Okay, as been said by the previous speakers, Mosu and Melissa, I really don't have much to add to that, but except we need to definitely promote active citizenship and be active participants in our laws and our policies within our countries. And as an organization that works with children, and our focus is with children and youth, my words would be to the youth and to children that make a conscious effort to get to know your constitution, get a conscious effort to know your rights, to know what's in our laws. Right now we work with the junior councillors and the junior parliamentarians, but I don't think this is a domain that should only be dealt with by those child leaders. Every child has the right to open that constitution and know what they are entitled to as youth, as and after that, as I advocate for the information that we invited to these hearings, so and guardians their children to these public hearings, so that from a young age a child knows the processes that are that the legislative framework and can be active citizens. So I think that's what I have to say. And also to the other CSOs, even in this creative, come up with different strategies to ensure that our constituents are aware of what's going on in our constitution, what's going on, an atmosphere with re-strategize. Thank you.
Thank you, Thobekile. I think you're saying the children and the youth, and it's actually the parents that are then being called to actually provide an environment where the children and the youth have access to the constitution, and it's discussed as well. So thank you so much for that, Thobekile. Mr. Dumisani Ncube, your last words.
Thank you very much, Zwa and colleagues. I think my parting shots really are on active citizen participation in democratic processes, that we need to occupy spaces, because if we don't occupy certain spaces, they will indeed be occupied by politicians. So my urge is that let's take part in the different processes in the public hearings. Parliament has extended an olive branch to CSOs, where they have weekly thematic committee meetings, and CSOs are invited to listen, to also provide input that we've gathered, or mainly from committees. So my encouragement really is on active citizen participation. Let's not be lethargic. Let's move into spaces in pursuit of democracy and good governance in Zimbabwe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ncube. Thank you so much to the panel. And on the panel today, I had Omosu Nare, and she's with Women's Institute for Leadership Development, WILD. And I also had Melissa Ndlovu, and she was representing Mthonjeni Women's Forum. I had Thobekile Sithole, and she is with Justice for Children. And we had Dumisani Ncube, representing Habakkuk Trust. I hope you enjoyed this discussion on what CSOs are doing to respond to the ongoing constitutional and legal reforms. That's all we have on the Constitutional Dialogue series. My name is Sizwakele Ndlovu, and thank you for watching Asake Online. Please remember to stay masked up, sanitize your hands regularly, and stay away from crowds and maintain social distance. Thanks for watching.